welcome to Xandermonium, the talk show that gets you talking. I'm your host, Xander Gibb, and in part one, along with my guest co-host, CJ Westyn, I will be looking at this week's most interesting news items. And in part deux, I will be keeping it real with Joe Messina, the host of The Real Side. So more to come in a mere moment. So you can, as per usual, interact with us during the show in the chat room at the bottom of the page. Keep scrolling down, it will take you there. Now, if it doesn't let you comment, it's because you're not registered, and you can register pretty easily with Facebook or Twitter. You can call us with questions and comments to weigh in on our topics or start your own on 347-884-9061. That's 347-884-9061. That's the same number to call us as it is to Skype us. Also, you can tweet us. My Twitter handle is at Xander Gibb. That's XanderGibb, capital X, capital G. And you can also tweet Joe Messina. His Twitter handle is at JoeMessina. You can also tweet Joe at The Real Side, which is ATHEREALSIDE, all lowercase. And my special guest co-host today is CJ Westyn. You can tweet him at CJ Westyn. I'll spell that for you. It's CJWESTYN. Capital C, capital J, capital W. Feel free to tweet me if you are shy, and I will make your point for you. Not that our listeners are ever that shy. So in a week where I met my deadline for finishing editing and publishing my book, my brain is actually quite numb. There is a real sense of achievement in finishing a project, and this was an almighty achievement for me, believe me. I started writing it about 10 years ago and kept meaning to finish it. And when my co-host T.P. Egar finished his book and published it, which is called Mother's Ruin, I kind of felt like I had to challenge myself. Now, this was to challenge myself in no way in competition with my fabulous friend. Oh, no, siree. It was more about making myself actually do something I'd set out to do, as I said, 10 years ago. And my book, The Boy from Beyond the Ice House, is a semi-autobiographical novel, and it also helped me to excise demons and finally put in some semblance of order outstanding issues from my childhood. Now, the catharsis that took place was actually immeasurable, and I was able to see my early life in a whole different light. Now, it also showed me what I am capable of when I really put my mind to it and what I can achieve with discipline. I'm not very disciplined. Those of you who know me will attest to this. Now, if you knew me in my youth, then maybe you will be mentioned in my book. So check it out. We will give you details of where you can obtain your copy in the future when it is actually live, which will be very soon. And yes, those of you asking, it will be available in Kindle version and as an ebook. So you will be able to watch it on your phones, watch it, read it even on your phones and on your gadgets. So in other news, The View are looking for new co-hosts, and as well as Margaret Cho and Rosie O'Donnell, I think I would be ideal for the job. What do you think about that? Would I be a suitable co-host for The View? If you think that I should be on The View, tweet hashtag Xan for The View. I'll spell it for you. XAN, the number 4, and then The View, THEVIEW. And tweet that to at The View TV. That's at The View TV. And tell them you want the Fab 3. Well, I can dream, can't I? So it's Pride weekend this weekend. So happy Pride to all. And don't forget your Factor 8. It's a little warm out there. So if you'd like to come join us and get on your soapbox, please email me at xander@xandergibb.com. That's xander@xandergibb.com. Now, I had someone asking me in the week, they were asking if they were on another show, could they still come on and get on their soapbox? Yes, anyone can come and get on your soapbox on Xandermonium. Oh, yes, you can. So joining me today to break down this week's hottest topics is broadcaster, radio and TV personality, and relationship expert, the one, the only, C.J. Westyn.
Hello,
so welcome to the show,
Xander.
Chris. Hello, how you doing?
Oh, doing great. I am just sitting around, and I am excited. I was pumped all afternoon to be on Xandermonium, and we were just tweeting about
Absolutely.
it, and I'm fired up.
Are you sitting outside? I actually wish I could. I'm aiming to be able to do the show from the backyard. So with the laptop and the wireless and a cordless phone and all of this to try and do that, because it's really glorious out there. It's like 80 degrees in the shade. Is it hot over there in New Jersey?
Yeah, I'm actually in Scranton right now, and I'm not outside. I wish I was, but it is very hot out, and so I'm inside with the AC on intentionally. But it sounds, doing the show from the outside when the weather's right, that's smooth, Xander. That's it.
That would just be perfect. Obviously, not so good when it's raining, but what you gonna do?
No.
So
yeah,
you maybe heard me talking about at the foot of the show that the view is changing, and lately they've had more comings and goings regarding co-hosts than I don't know what, and never has the panel turned over quite as thoroughly as the shuffle in the works for this season. Oh no.
Mm-hmm.
Preparing for post-Barbara Walters chapter was apparently hard for viewers, but now it seems Whoopi Goldberg will be the only returning player in September. Now, word hit on Thursday that Sherry Shepherd and Jenny McCarthy are leaving the show, and Goldberg will undoubtedly have a bigger say in determining the makeup of the new panel. Industry observers have said, and Barbara Walters has Barbara Walters has hinted that a permanent male co-host is a possibility in the interest of shaking up the show's femme-driven energy. Now, although they've had lots of guest male co-hosts before, I think they should be looking in this direction and get Xander Gibb on there. But rumors abound that Rosie O'Donnell is returning to the show, and if you throw into that mix Margaret Cho, that sounds like perfection to me. What do you think about all of this, Chris?
Well, it's definitely a shattering of the status quo, Xander. And I really think to bring a male perspective onto the show would be something else. It's especially with this tradition of just, again, like you said, coming from the feminine voice. If it's getting their feathers are rustling it up this much, I think they need to bring a guy on.
I think so too. It was always billed as a show for women, but I think that when you actually do that, you limit certain sections of the community from being your audience. Because I know the demographic is very mixed. I know that they get a lot of women watching it, a lot of gay men watching it, a lot of straight men watching it, and also kind of like everybody in between. So the demographic is all across the board. But clearly they've had problems. I don't know whether the problems have been with regards to the viewing figures or actually sustaining an audience. But I think clearly this is indicative of that something's going on. Because if it's not broken, you don't try and fix it, do you? Or you wouldn't think so.
Exactly. Xander, I think you should get in there.
I would actually love to be on something like that. Not just because it's prime time and things like that, but I think that it would be an ideal outlet for my BS, basically. Because on this show we try and cover lots of hot topics, and they seem to want guests that are very opinionated. But
Yes.
that show always seems to give kind of like underdogs a go. Like people. I mean, when Debbie Matenopoulos first started on the show, for example, who knew who she was? I mean, most people are probably not very aware of who she is now. But they don't seem to be averse to having kind of like people who are not that well known. So if there are open auditions, I'm definitely going. I'll be dragging my ass along there and seeing what's going on. Do you think you would go for it? Is it the kind of thing that you would feel comfortable with or not?
I don't know. No, it's not the kind of thing I'd feel comfortable with. I'm more of a radio guy, but I would be there with you at your back, cheering you on. No question about it, Xander.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
That would be wonderful. So do you actually watch The View?
It's rare. Like I probably haven't seen The View in like years, but I am familiar with with the spirit of The View,
right,
so to speak.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think that they had troubles a couple of years ago because they had to separate Rosie and Elizabeth Hasselbeck because they were always fighting, which I think makes for good viewing. But I think it's kind of like it's the moderator's job to keep it in line. I know. I mean, I don't think that they were getting outside and beating each other up. Maybe they were. Who knows? But I think the moderator has a certain responsibility to keep things in order. So if there was like a radio version of The View, you'd kind of like you'd consider doing that.
I think I'd get in there. I definitely think, I would prefer radio over TV. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think some people are very uncomfortable in the medium of television. We're just in the process of going over to TV, and we recently did some test shows and stuff, and it's kind of I mean I'm comfortable in what I do, but it's a totally different genre and gives you so many other things to be thinking about. And so it's okay. I like it. I love it. I enjoy it. But I think it's a constant learning process. It's a constant requirement for change. And the difference, obviously, between TV and radio is on TV, they get to see what you look like. They just get to see a picture of you when you're on the radio and hear your voice. But on TV, they actually get to see just, warts and all, as it were. Yeah. So I think it's a big transposition.
And that becomes
for
part of your
people.
persona. It would add to the voice of Xander, which I think would just be great.
Well, I do too. I mean, it's kind of, even just all of this has brought lots of issues for me, like getting a stylist, working with a personal trainer. But we're going to kind of like work all of these things into the show because I think that the what we're used to as the great American public is that we see just the finished product. And what I want to do for people is to show them that you can do this too. You can achieve this, and you can get there with me.
You're showing them the hard work behind it.
Absolutely.
Kind of like people tune into your show every week, and I mean, they don't really see what goes on behind it to put it together. And if you're talking about bringing that to your show, that'd be great.
Exactly. I mean, I'm actually gonna start to work with a nutritionalist pretty soon because I have a weight problem. I've always been very honest about it on the show. And I think that actually sharing my struggle with other people will be helpful to the general populace because I know for a fact I don't see many big people on TV, and when I do, they're often ridiculed, et cetera, et cetera. And I think
they are.
I actually saw on Entertainment Tonight they've employed a guy who's a big guy. I mean, he's got to be like 450 pounds, and for me that was a kind of a breakthrough because I have always had this ideology that if you're going to employ someone to do a job, like if you want someone to come and fix the pipes in your house, I mean it's great if they look good, but that's a secondary process. The first ideology should be how well they can do the job, but in the entertainment industry there's all this thinking about the style, having to match the content, etc. So they're always like looking for a certain type, which basically means that unless you fit into that mold, you don't get that opportunity.
No, you have to fit into the image as well.
Absolutely. Do you think that society is to blame for that? Do we kind of expect that too much, do you think?
Yeah, I think we've created the media has created our ideal images, our archetypal images of people that we like to see in different certain media outlets.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's circular, really, isn't it? Like we complain about it, but we've created it. But I think the viewers now have more of a say than anything else. Even good shows get canceled, and so if you don't watch a show, it's going to affect whether it's going to get another season, surely. So we can affect change. And now with things like social media, we all should be on there, like, voicing our opinions about what we like, what we don't like. Because as consumers, we don't always get the opportunity to do that. But I think social media gives that opportunity somewhat.
It sure does. It gives us a chance to interact on a level that we've never had before. In any industry, really. I was having issues with American Airlines last week, and after some tweeting, I got stuff hammered out.
Wow. That's really interesting. Tell us a little bit more about that, because on this show we have a real we have a real interest in self-consumer advocacy, because most of us, not me obviously, because I've got big mouth, but most of us walk away from these issues and say nothing. So what was your issue, and how was it resolved?
Oh, the flight that I had out of EWR was canceled. And I was on the phone with them, and after about an hour, I got on with some representative, and she, talked to me about my rerouting options, and then she's like, okay, we can do this for you and this for you, but if you hold longer, we can get you on some advanced department of American Airlines where you may be able to get on a better flight. And so I'm just waiting, and it's coming up on 2 hours, so I'm thinking, well, let me start to tweet them. So I started to tweet at American Airlines, like, nonstop. I hammered away at them. And I got a little inbox with a number to call, and then I just called that number, and they took care of me.
Wow. I've tried this. So many times, and it always works in my favor, because I think really this is the thing. Companies want to shut you up. They don't want to get bad press. And if I have an issue with a company, I take it to them first of all. I give them the opportunity to sort it out, because for me that's what sets a company apart. Every company is going to have issues, but how they deal with them is what really sets them apart. So if they try and mess with me, then I'm right onto social media. I've got quite a lot of followers on Twitter and Facebook, and et cetera, and so I tweet about the things that I'm not happy about with companies. Like, for instance, recently I had a problem with Sprint. They used to give you this opportunity to upgrade early, and I wanted to go to like an iPhone or whatever, and I was even prepared to pay more a month, but they said no, we can't do that. But Joe Blogs can walk in off the street and walk away with an iPhone, a free toaster,
sure.
and free calls and all of these other things, and I've been with them for 10 years. So I tweeted about it, that I tweeted my disdain, and I mentioned them in the tweet, and they were like, what's up, Xander? What can we do for you? What can we do to help you? And within a week, I had a new iPhone, credits, free upgrades, no connection fee.
See, yeah,
that's
a beautiful thing.
Exactly.
And
I think it has to be legitimate.
We're talking about the corporate world here, where it's tough.
We
go into battles with companies like Verizon and American Airlines. This isn't like a small time thing with your local plumber.
No, exactly. Because I don't think your local plumber would be affected by you tweeting that he wasn't very good at his job. But you're absolutely, you've hit the nail on the head. Though corporately, if you've got an issue, that these companies, because it is a case of he who shouts loudest. And I really should write a book about consumer advocacy, because I've had more free shit than I don't know what, because I've complained about bad service, and I never complain illegitimately. It's always a valid complaint. But I've had, you would be surprised. I could fill a whole show with just stuff that I got for free because I've complained.
Right. I could probably co-author that with you. I'm huge on service with anything, from restaurants to companies, products, services. And again, I'm the type of person that I'll take it, I'll complain, I'll write a letter. I've gone to the Better Business Bureau. But I'm also the type of guy who, I was on with Apple support once, and I had such a good customer experience that, I took the time to write, I asked the dude what his manager's name was, and I wrote the manager a letter just commending the tech support guy that I had. So, I'll be there to criticize, but I'll also take the time to comment on excellent service.
That's a really good point, actually, because I think America always likes to complain, but I'm very keen to do that too. I don't comment on good service, but because that, to me, that's what you should expect as a consumer. But when the service is exceptional, I've had some companies that have treated me so well. I don't think I'm a big celeb or anything like that, but if there's a restaurant that I go in and they know I have a radio show and stuff like that, and they always treat me really well, 95% of the time. So I'm happy about that. So I'll always comment on exceptional service, but I'm just as willing to comment on unsatisfactory service, shall we call it. But I think most companies don't want they don't want you to keep going on about it. That's why they throw free shit at you. That's why they say, there you go, let's give you a free month. Let's do this, let's do that. I think every time I call these companies, they're like, oh, it's Xander Gibb, a skull and crossbones comes up on the computer. Warning!
It's Xander. Let's give him something. Let's shut him up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's great, but you shouldn't have to take it to that level. Because if you want anything out of it, you kind of have to take it to the very edge. You almost have to go, either with tweeting or with calling. I have a friend who, he was in a battle with Verizon for months, and he finally, took it to the point where he's he got to the cancel my thing department or whatever, and he's like, I'm sitting in my car outside of an AT&T store. What are we going to do? And, it took him, that long to getting to that point before they accommodated him.
You see, that always starts bells ringing for me when you have to go that far. To me, when you've asked at the local level, usually the local level have been given a script about what to say. It's like, do not pass go, do not collect $200. But when you go to the highest level, to the corporate level, you usually get a different level of response. I always try on a local level, first of all, because the first thing they'll say to you is, well, did you speak to the local manager? They want you to go through a chain. But I'm not messing around. And I think that when companies kind of add insult to injury by suggesting that wasn't how it was, or you must have done something different with the product and these things, that infuriates me further. So I'm just like, no, can't deal with you. I'm going to corporate right away.
And they play the blame game. They point the finger at you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So one thing I wanted to ask you about,
you got it,
as a bit of a segue with regards to the blame game. Now, one of your fields of expertise is regarding relationships. One thing that I kind of identified this week that I thought was really interesting that I wanted to talk to you about was, are you familiar with what's been going on with Tori Spelling? Her husband has allegedly been cheating, and so they're having problems and she'd kicked him out and all of this, and she's changed all her names on everything back to spelling rather than Tori and Dean. And if you think back, when she first got with him, now he was married to someone else, so she was having a relationship with a married man. So what I wanted to ask you about is, do you think that when this occurs, because let's face it, it occurs a lot in life, that people meet someone, they're already with someone, they leave that person and come with you. Now, for me, I never want that in my life because of the complication that I think if they've left someone to come to you, they can do the same. They can leave you to go to someone else. Do these leopards actually ever change their spots, do you think? Or do you think that it's very few and far between when they do?
Wait a second. Can you clarify that question?
So if you start dating someone that's with someone else and then they leave that person to come to you, do you think there's a high likelihood that they're going to leave you to go to someone else?
That's a great question. I mean, for me personally, it's something I wouldn't get into, and it wouldn't be about gauging the likelihood. I wouldn't get into it simply because they're capable of doing it once. That means they're capable of doing it again. Now, if you break it down to the details of your situation, you would have to see, I mean, again, it would all be in the details, whether it would happen again or not. But, I mean, for me, again, the fact that they've done it says they're capable of doing it. And for me, I'm out with that person.
Right. I totally agree with that, because I think you have to hedge your bets with any relationship. So cutting out any factors, is obviously like going to work in your favor. But one thing that I found was a very interesting statistic was, I think it was 30 or 40% of relationships that people date or marry someone that one of their siblings have already dated or been married to. So you marry someone, then you get divorced, and then they marry your brother. And I used to think that was like really uncommon, but apparently that is so common. And the families have to like move away. I mean, some are cool with it, obviously, but do you think that this is a commonality too, or becoming more of a commonality?
That's a statistic that I haven't really recognized or have done any research on, nor have I observed much of that going on, Xander, to be honest with you. Right. And maybe it's just the areas where I'm living, the people I'm around, I haven't seen it. But I'm not familiar with it. Right.
Yeah, obviously none of these things happen in New Jersey.
No, of course, no, nothing like that happened in New Jersey.
No, definitely not. They would kick you out of the state. They would make you give back your turnpike privileges.
Hard for life. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So let's talk about. I don't know if you heard the story this week about Amy Adams, who gave up her first-class seat to an American soldier, but it wasn't to get attention. She said she didn't do it for attention. She actually did it for herself, and she did it for the attention of the troops, because according to fellow passengers, apparently numbers never lie. Adams 39 noticed a man in a uniform at the gate in Detroit. She privately asked to switch seats with him, even though he was booked in coach. One of the other passengers says, I noticed Miss Adams was in first class, and as I was getting seated, I saw the flight attendant guide the soldier to Miss Adams' seat. She was no longer in it, but it was clear that she'd given up her seat for him. Now, I'm kind of quite impressed at this. I know her family has like a military background and things like this. Mm-hmm. But I think that just generally, vets and soldiers and stuff are getting a really raw deal right now. But this was kind of nice to see something like this happen. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's a real stand-up class act gesture, especially coming from someone like Amy Adams. I mean, it's something I think they should I think they should just have access to to first class or flights or whatever. I mean, right. I really think the servicemen should come first. I just think it's a great thing that she did.
Absolutely. I think, I don't know, there's just been, this really kind of warmed the cockles of my heart to see that she'd done that. I mean, she didn't go and do hundreds of interviews about it, say, "Ooh, I gave up my seats in first class to someone in the military." You know, she actually did it, genuinely. Because I think that there's so much going on in this country right now with regards to how badly veterans are treated. Because when you think about it, if people see action overseas, et cetera, and they fight for us to keep us safe, so many of them leave because of injury or PTSD or whatever, and they really get thrown on the scrap heap of life. It's like we use them up and we spit them out. And it's a real concern right now that vets are not given the respect that they deserve.
Yes, and it's terrible that it is that way. I mean, these are the people that their life calling is defending our country.
Exactly.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I think that for me, I mean, I'm vehemently pro these people, just because of what they've done to keep us safe. And I don't think we always actually see it on the surface. But I just wonder how they can justify the lack of support they kind of give to these people when they can spend millions on ridiculous, stupid things, but they cut the benefits of vets. With the blinking of an eye.
Yeah, it's almost like they're not recognized, but they're probably one of the most important pieces of our society. I mean,
do you think this is like a political thing?
What's that?
Sorry, go on. I interrupted you. I said, do you think it's a political thing? Do you think it's like kind of one party is more supportive than another, or do you think it's across the board? Was it just the same when Bush was in as it is now with Obama? Because he's been a bit of a disappointment for me with a lot of things of late, but this vet stuff has just been more icing on the cake, as it were.
Yeah, I'm not so sure it's a political thing, Xander. And to be honest with you, I've really fallen out of following politics because I just became so disillusioned. So, I mean, I kind of stick my nose out of it. But, I mean, just to take it down to its core, I mean, these people are veterans, and I think they should be honored not only in terms of coming back from risking life and limb for our country, honored by our government in terms of benefits. What we also see is that these people are generally not respected, or I don't want to say not respected. Let me take that back. Not respected, but not recognized or noticed just generally in society. I mean, these are heroes.
Exactly.
These are people who have, seriously are putting themselves in, they're risking their lives. And, I mean, I just think we owe them a little more.
I totally agree, and
whatever
I think that
way
as a nation... Go ahead.
Oh, no,
go ahead.
I wasn't even... I forget my train of thought. Go ahead.
I'm saying, no, I was just going to say that as a nation, we all need to kind of own this shame, because it's something that we should all be speaking out about more. And actually pointing out these things. Because, see, it's one thing just to sit and think, oh, well, this is no good. But it's only when we speak out and we actually take action that things change. And this is not something that is going to go away. And the concern is that these veterans are still lacking in the care and support and financial aid that they need. And the other thing, for me, what this is indicative of is how many people are going to not join any of the military services based upon the way vets are treated after their service. I mean, it's not. It doesn't encourage people to want to to serve their country.
Yeah, if they're looking at it like, okay, this is what happens and this is how I'm treated when I'm discharged, why bother? It's kind of, like you said, yes, it's discouraging.
Absolutely,
kind of sad.
and I think the concern is that for me the disappointment is the buck stops with the commander in chief, whoever is in charge at the time. One of their main priorities should be to make sure that these vets have a better deal, access to housing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I think it's one of the things that we, the country, should be hanging in our heads in shame about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. An issue that should kind of be pushed up a little more further.
Yeah. Yeah, people should be writing to their senators and stuff like that and expressing their feelings about these issues to effect change, because they've got money for other things. They've got money they've got money to send more soldiers into Iraq and things like that, and to send generals and stuff to go and give guidance. What about the people that have already protected us and served us? What about them? What about spending some of that money there and making their lives a bit better?
Of course. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's
so
crazy.
it's a real concern. Let me give out the number so people can call in and weigh in on these topics, or even start their own, or tell us to go screw ourselves, or whatever. It's 347-884-9061. Call us now, 347-884-9061. We have a blank switchboard. Call us. Tell us what you think. Do you think the vets get a bad deal? What do you think we can do to effect change? Call in and tell us about any of the subjects we have been talking about, and we will get you live on air on Xandermonium right now.
Yeah.
So one of the things that's kind of the next story I want to talk about, which is kind of like twofold for me. It's been announced that in New York State they're gonna make weed legal. I don't know if you heard about this.
Medically or recreationally, or both?
Both.
Okay.
And that's kind of like quite surprising. We're going to end up with a state full of stoners if it's legalized, and I think that there are lots of different differing attitudes about this. And if one more person tells me that it's not addictive, I'm going to scream. Really, I am. Because for me, just from my experience, I'm like an open book. I was addicted to cannabis for 2 years back in the 90s when I lived in London, and so I was totally addicted. I have a very addictive personality, but it also did lead to other things for me. I would never have tried cocaine if it hadn't have been for the fact that I was smoking weed, because it is a gateway drug. So, what are your feelings about weed and the legalization?
Xander, I don't smoke marijuana, but I am all for it. I'll take it back to the main reasons that we hear all the time. We're crowding our prisons over nonviolent crimes. It's marijuana.
Right.
It's not crack. People, there's law enforcement. Money that we could be out there chasing killers and people that are committing real crimes, rather than spending time and money on putting people behind bars for smoking marijuana. Honestly, I think it's insane. I think medically it's fantastic because what we've seen, we've come a long way in science. I was just out in Denver actually, and I have a friend who works at a spot out there. He's been in the medical industry for the past couple of years, and I went out to visit him, and the stuff he was showing me that, with just the extraction of different strains that they can do and apply it to different conditions, it's kind of baffling. It's amazing. And the taxing of what they're doing out there is incredible. Recreational, I believe it's a 21% tax. And the first thing that they were doing was putting music and art programs back into schools. So I think it's great for society. I think a lot less, again, law enforcement money is going to be thrown into a useless area, the war on drugs, whatever you want to call it. And I mean, enough is enough. Just let people smoke pot. And I mean, what I'm hoping is that other states follow suit, because I love to go to Colorado, and I mean, it's like I live there partially, and it's jacking up travel prices. So for me, selfishly, I need it to balance out. So travel prices to Colorado come down. Yeah.
I think there's always an element of taxation with these things, with legalizing anything. And I think that a lot of the reasoning for it is so that the government can generate more income. Call me a cynic, but I really think that is a big part of it. I mean, that's fine. Sure. I mean, look at the tax on cigarettes and things like that. You know, I don't smoke, and so it doesn't really affect me. But when someone told me the other day that they were paying like $11, $12 for a packet of cigarettes, I had to laugh. I mean, I smoked like 20 years ago, and there's no way I would ever pay that.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Yeah, I smoked. I remember. I think when I quit, it was $3.50 for a pack of Marlboros.
Wow. You see, I mean that kind of like seems like reasonable. When I smoked when I lived in England, you could get like a packet of 20 cigarettes for like £2, which is about $3.50. But apparently they're like eight pounds a throw now in England, which is about $13 now. So the taxation on all of these things is clearly a big part of it. But with regards to who sells it, I think that there's a great ideology with the legalization of cannabis, whereas in there's going to be regulations and guidelines about it, about who can sell it, where they can sell it, what standard it has to be. Because I mean, I know that, you know, I just know from personal experience, like when I used to smoke weed when I lived in London, you know, you could buy some and it had been dipped in diesel because that's how they got it into the country, and you know that's bad for you too. And
sure,
at least if it's controlled, you're going to be guaranteed a purer version of the drug, and also the other side of it is apparently what they're going to be able to sell is a far more weaker version. Because some stuff apparently is just like so strong now, so they can control how effective it is.
Yeah, they can. And actually, again, when I was out there, my friend was showing me what they were doing, and they could actually take the THC. What they have now they're actually transdermal patches. And they have some of these transdermal patches where there's no THC, it's just the cannabinoid or whatever the chemical is, but they're patches that don't give people a psychoactive, quote-unquote, high, so to speak. It's more of a body relaxation for, whatever inflammation, whatever condition that person may be suffering from. So, again, yes, like taking it back to the science of how far we've come in being able to alter and control and regulate the product.
Absolutely. I think that the last time I tried the last time I smoked anything was about 12 years ago, and I'd gone to a party and I took a couple of tokes on this doobie, and I was like, I have to get out of here. I was like totally paranoid. I think you've got to be.
It's been about 10 years for me.
Yeah, I think they've got to build into the legislation that you can only do it while you're in college. I mean, I'm sure there is a nation of stoners that are like, like 30 plus, and that do smoke every day. But I think, like a lot of things, it's like a rite of passage. It's like something you do in college. Because how can you have an effective life and do a full-time job and things like that when you're stoned all the time.
There's no way, Xander. Like I said, it's been about 10 years for me, and I mean, I remember it was just, I don't know how I got through college, to be honest with you. It was nuts, but I guess, again, with people, I mean, I don't know. It depends on how they're using it. What I'm hearing, a lot of issues, the edibles, the recreational edibles, the dosing isn't really exact. So what's happening, a lot of people are eating this stuff, and the dosing isn't metered out, and they're kind of like overdosing. The edibles are really powerful. So I think legalization is great, but I think maybe some more government regulation on production, it would be my opinion, on dosing and standards and testing.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I think that the it affects you differently, the ways that you you partake. You know, if you smoke it, it affects it differently to if you ingest it. So, because if you eat it, it takes far longer to actually get in your system. I remember reading a few years ago, maybe about 15, 20 years ago, that people had started like, there's this like ideology where people would put alcohol on things and put it, in their butt and stuff like that. I mean, there were some crazy things that people do to get off their face, but they were doing the same with cannabis oil, like putting on something and it was absorbed through the lining of the rectum, and they were getting really ill from it and stuff. But there's always that worry that people are going to try to, do these crazy, outrageous things to get higher quicker.
Yeah, and I don't think there's really anything we can do to stop that. There's gonna, like you said, cannabis it is highly addictive, and the people that get highly addicted to something are the people that go out and do the stuff that you're talking about right now.
Exactly. I mean, I have a very addictive personality, so I do have to keep it in check, whether it be food, drugs, sex, or a Kathy Griffin, whatever it is. I've really got to...
I go hard on food, man. I could call myself a food addict.
Yeah, I could sit and eat like all day long. I've got no off switch. But you do really kind of like have to keep it in check. My sister asked me an interesting question recently, like this week when they made the announcement they were going to legalize cannabis use in New York State. My sister was like, "So Zan, will you be having some weed cookies or something like that?" And I thought about it, and I thought, no, I don't think I will. I have enough time concentrating most of the time anyway, with all the stuff that I've got to do, so I can't consider, being in touch. I mean, I hardly drink. A couple of weeks ago we had a family barbecue, and I had like 3 beers, and that was me gone. So I can't, I can't afford to do that kind of stuff anymore.
Yeah,
Besides at my age,
especially with time-wise. I mean, if it's going to immobilize you, make you ineffective, what are you doing?
Yeah, exactly. It is a concern. I used to laugh when I used to hear people like, in their 40s and 50s and they'd be stoned all the time, and I'm like, how do you survive? How do you pay your bills? How do you pay your rent or your mortgage if you're stoned all the time? Well, I suppose you could be a writer and you could get stoned and just sit and write random BS all the time. Yeah.
See, here's the thing. When I used to smoke, like way back in the day, like, I'm a writer, I'm a musician, and when I used to smoke, I couldn't do those things. Like, I don't know, some people, I guess, like, I don't know if you call it a gift or whatever, but some people could be productive when they're smoking or whatever, but I wasn't one of them. Like, when I did it, it was
me
just
either.
Like, I'm out, I'm not functioning, I'm not doing anything.
Me either. And I'm a singer, and I can't sing when I'm even mildly intoxicated. I can't sing in tune when I'm either stoned or drunk. So I was never one of these people that could get drunk before I went on stage. One drink, and that would be enough for me just to kind of like, but certainly not fully intoxicated. And I think as well, weed kind of like you don't have any idea about reality. You know, you sing or you talk and you think it's really funny, but everybody else is like, what the frick are you talking about, dude? You're talking, you know, total.
Yes, exactly.
It's like stoned waffle. And if you've never been stoned, you won't gonna get what that is. But if everybody else is stoned in the room too, anything is funny. You know, the dog farts and it's the most hilarious thing in the world. So you know, but obviously everybody has to be in the same condition to be able to get the joke, I suppose.
Of course, yeah. Can't just be one. It can't just be you.
No.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah, but no,
that's why
I
when
think
you're not
it's
taking
great.
drugs.
Go ahead.
Go on. No, go ahead.
Just saying, I think it's great that New York is going to follow suit. I mean, I just hope that that the rest of the states get on with it sooner rather than later.
I actually saw something funny on Facebook today with regards to that, and I won't mention the politician's name, but it was just so ridiculous. I don't know if it was made up or it was real, but it said something about smoking weed makes you gay or turns you gay. That was a
really.
Yeah.
Are you kidding
I'll have
me?
to share it when after the show. But
or was it a parody?
Well, I don't know. I don't know, and
okay.
I'm gonna have to check it out. But it just made me laugh, you know, because there are all these odd Christian nut job ideologies about what makes you gay, and obviously smoking weed and visiting McDonald's are at the top of the list. I mean, I've been saying for years that song should say a visit to McDonald's makes you gay, not makes you day. But you know.
This is the first time I've heard of the marijuana thing, and it's also the first time I've heard of the McDonald's thing. Now, I never heard that going to McDonald's could make you gay.
I was just being facetious about the McDonald's thing, but it was just as ridiculous as saying that weed makes you gay. But that's a brilliant segue into the last story that we're going to talk about. A woman in Frederick, Maryland was shocked when she found a bag of marijuana mixed in with her family's drive-through meal. Carla McFarland took her 2 children, a 6-year-old daughter and an 8-year-old son, to get a special treat, a meal at Sonic. On Wednesday, the family rode through the drive-thru, and McFarland passed her children the food and discovered a small plastic bag of what looked like weed. And with her fries. Would you like weed with that, ma'am? Exactly. A very happy meal. So a Sonic employee eventually admitted that the marijuana was hers and guessed that the bag had slipped out of her apron at some point. So the fast food worker was, as you can imagine, fired. And the bag was seized by deputies, but it's unknown if the contents were tested to confirm it was marijuana, said the stoned representative from the sheriff's department.
Oh, my God. Wow.
No, the sheriff's department rep, I have to say, they weren't stoned. I just added that for the whole fun of it all. I mean, what do you make of that? There you are. You're driving through the drive-through. You're on your way, and you get your Happy Meal, and it's a really Happy Meal because it has weed in it. I mean,
it's
what
so
the
happy.
frick
Like
next?
if I was a marijuana smoker, I would be like, wow, this is quite the Happy Meal.
You'd be like,
happiest day of my life.
bonus.
Awesome. Yeah. But I think in reality, I mean, what I'm guessing is that probably the person was selling it to her friends or whatever and mixed up the order or the line or something, and I'm guessing that she put it in the wrong bag or something and
funny
made
you
up
say
the
that.
story
That wouldn't
about
surprise
me. Yeah, it's been done before. I think they've caught people trying to do that or doing that out of fast food places, selling it, and then they mix it up, and then, you know, she probably made up the story. It fell out of my pocket, so she doesn't get a distribution charge. That's my guess. Yeah,
I knew a guy in London that used to deliver pizza, and if he would see your address, he would know that you wanted more than, like, you know, spicy pepperoni, that you wanted something to smoke as well, which I thought was kind of ingenious, really.
Yeah.
You know, what toppings would you like? I want pepperoni, mushroom, olives, and marijuana. And
what kind of mushrooms, sir?
Yeah, What kind of mushrooms do you like? The hallucinogenic variety or the regular?
We have several varieties of mushrooms that we could place on your pizza.
It is kind of a concern. I mean, I actually, not wishing to be like prudish in any way, shape, or form, but I would be quite concerned if I found that in food, because I think food is like, there is this kind of like sanctity you expect with food. And I've heard all these horrible stories, like, if you piss off waiters, what they might do to your food and what they might put in your food and stuff. But, there has to be the sanctity with food, really, because you don't get to see them cook it. You don't get to see them do these things. So you don't want anything in your food that's not supposed to be there, whether it be a bag of weed or, whatever.
Oh, yes, of course, yeah. I mean, in all seriousness, I'd probably be appalled.
Yeah, I would, and then I would complain that I ordered the cocaine Happy Meal, not the marijuana Happy Meal.
Xander, there'd be serious complaints. There'd be tweeting at Sonic. You put marijuana in my Happy Meal, and I wanted Coke.
Yeah.
I wanted.
Would you like ice
Coke.
with your Coke? No, just give me a straw. So, Chris, we're coming.
Please.
Yeah, we're coming to the end of our time together, because a $20 bill doesn't do the job anymore, does it? I'm giving too much away today. We're coming to the end of our time together. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing at the moment, and also tell us where people can find you on social media.
Sure. At the moment, I mean, I'm wearing many hats. I am. To pay the bills, what I've always been doing, I'm doing a web design, social media optimization firm.
Great.
And you can find us at princetonwebdesign.co. You can also find my character, CJ Westyn, my media personality, on Twitter. That's at CJ Westyn. And Westyn is spelled with a Y, so that's Westyn. And my website is undergoing some reconstruction. It'll be up late next week, so there is cjweston.com.
Mine is too. Mine is going to be given a complete overhaul, hopefully, by your good self. Do you think that
we're going to get together.
How important do you feel the website is as a tool for selling your stuff, about selling yourself?
I think it's critical. It's the hub. It's where all the information is.
Right.
Everything should be on the website. Everything someone needs to know should be on that website, and it should be easily accessible. It's crucial.
Right. Absolutely. So it's the crux of it's kind of like east meets west of information, really, isn't it? It's like where it all is. So how long have you been building websites for people, and what kind of websites do you get mostly asked to do?
My company's been in business for 4 years, and we've done everything from restaurants to doctors' office, lawyers' offices. The list goes on, Xander. There really is no boundaries in terms of websites or what social media you can do for your website or business.
Great.
Yeah.
I think I had say again.
The sky's the limit.
So there's nothing that you wouldn't do then if someone came to you and said, I have a porno line, I want you to build me a website for that. You could do that too.
You bet.
Fabulous. God bless America.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I think too many people limit themselves with what they're prepared to do because for me, someone wants me to provide a service for them. What they do with that is their business, isn't it? Surely, it's like saying I'm not selling you this car because you might use it to ram raid a bank or drive through a liquor store window and steal all of the wine.
Exactly. Yeah. You're providing the medium.
Absolutely.
Don't shoot the messenger.
So basically, anyone can come along to you and say, hey, Chris, I want a website, and you can build something to their specifications.
Absolutely, yeah. We would meet up with them, talk about their business, and come up with a plan.
Right. Right.
Yep.
And what kind of technology do you use? Because I know there's lots of stuff out there. I'm very antiquated and have been for the last 10 years using Microsoft Front Page, and people laugh at me and they're like, Did that come free with your dinosaur's food bowl or something? You know, it's like so old. What kind of software do you work with?
We use WordPress.
Right.
For the vast majority of our websites, yes.
Right. And that's quite a common software to use, isn't it, nowadays?
It sure is.
Right. Absolutely. And do you think that I know we talked a lot about this, but you know, you can go to sites and there's all the flashy shit that comes at you. Do you think simple is always better?
It depends, but I mean, I think right now what we're seeing in terms of websites, in terms of advertising, I think we're seeing a shift in terms of sort of less is more. I think, and that's kind of the direction we've been going, is keep it simple.
Exactly.
Bring someone to your website. You don't need the bells and whistles to distract. Just show me. Yeah, exactly. It needs to be streamlined.
I definitely think that when I go to a website, the first thing I want to be able to do is to find what I want to find. And you know, with some websites, they're just so complicated. And I hate when you've got to join the website to be able to read the website.
Exactly.
I mean, to me,
you should be able to go and find what you want within seconds, like in under 30 seconds. Like there should be, again, the bells and whistles, the distraction. It should be really simple. What do I want? Where am I finding it? Real quick, in and out of there.
Exactly. And I'm finding that more and more that people are moving to simplified versions. Even even like big celebrities and stuff. You know, they've got a little bit of flash on their site, but it's not kind of like all flash. It's mostly it's mostly kind of like just to do the business, as it were.
Sure, here and there. Yeah. In terms of design, as an element of design.
But I guess it's kind of different with each person, as in for what they're looking for and what they're actually trying to achieve with that.
Yeah, it would depend on your goals. What kind of website you have, what you're doing with it. If you're selling stuff over the internet, if it's for your business, if it's just a foot or a brick and mortar place. It all depends.
So what about if now it's legal in New York State? What about if I want to sell weed through the mail? You could make me a website for that too.
We could do XanderDrugSales.com, and you could hook up. You could be selling marijuana through the mail. We'll have you up and running in about a week, Xander. You'll be in federal prison maybe in 2.
No, I'm not going to prison. No way. With this face in prison, can you imagine? Well, we're coming to. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say we're coming to the end of our time together, Chris. I would recommend people go and check out Chris's website. If you look at the Today's Show page on the website, www.xandergibb.com, and press on Today's Show, you will be able to you'll be able to see all of Chris's information. Well, not all of his information. It doesn't tell you where he lives or his phone number, but if you want that, email me at xandergibb.com, and we will send that to you privately. Not really, obviously.
If people want my number, they can request it. I mean, you could tweet at me, and I'll send you my number, and we can chat. That's totally cool.
Right. There you go. You heard it on Xandermonium. Chris Westyn will give you his number if you tweet him. Let's test that theory. Go right now and tweet Chris Westyn and ask him for his number.
Hit me up. Let's see if it happens.
Absolutely. Well, listen, thanks so much for joining us today. And we hope you'll come back and join us again in the future. And I look forward to speaking to you very soon. But for right now,
absolutely, it was a pleasure.
take care of yourself and have a fabulous week.
Yeah, you too. Thanks a lot.
Thanks
Bye,
a lot.
Xander.
Take care. Bye-bye. That was the fabulous C.J. Westyn. Make sure you check out his website, PrincetonDesign.com. All of the details are on the page. And what we can do now is we're going to play a quick song while we wait for our next guest. This song is called Ideal. Oh, actually, my guest just called in, so we won't be playing the song now. See how prepared we are here. So my next guest is Joe Messina, who is a radio talk show host who can be heard daily across the airwaves. He's a no-nonsense conservative realist and is interested in hearing both sides of the story, which is probably why we always hit it off. He is, of course, the host of The Real Side, so please give it up for the one, the only, Mr. Joe Messina. Welcome back to the show, Joe.
Well, Xander, thanks for having me back, and thank God there is only one of me, don't you think?
Absolutely. I can't imagine what the world would be like with two Joe Messinas, or even two Xander Gibbs. Can you imagine? It's like I'm scared to just contemplating this. So, how is the world with you?
Well, California is wonderfully hot. You know, everybody always says, "Oh God, California gets such wonderful weather. It's always sunny." Yeah, it's like 106 degrees. There is too much sun at some point in time, don't you think?
Yeah, it's 80 degrees here today, and that's kind of like a little bit much for me. I've got the fan on, which is quite quiet because it's a new one, and normally I've got like the AC on full, regardless of the cost, because I cannot stand being too hot. You know, you can't work, you can't think, you can't talk. It's just like all you want to do is sit and watch TV when it's that hot, really.
Well, I will tell you that being a large man like myself, you don't want to put a large man with a lot of heat. It's just not very pretty.
No, absolutely. It's really not conducive with. That's the word I was looking for. It's not conducive with being comfortable. So
I don't use words I can't spell, Xander.
Well, I can spell conducive only because I'm now an author and I've got to be able to spell properly.
I'm looking it up now. Go ahead.
Story. So tell me, we're going to talk about some topics, but tell me what's jumped out at you this week. What's got you irked? What's got your blood boiling, Joe?
Well, it's funny you should say that. The piece I wrote last week was about the $15 minimum wage that I said, you know, basically that's a death sentence for a lot of small businesses, and I got quite a bit of it really funny because the backlash came mostly from, you know, 9-to-5 workers, and you know, God bless 9-to-5 workers, we need them, but I always go back to the same thing when it comes to stories like that. Do you know a family member that has their own business, that has taken a second on their home, that has you know, wiped out their savings account to start their own little, I don't care if it's a corner store or McDonald's or whatever, and ask them what it's like, you know, not to go without a paycheck, to, you know, start their own business and that kind of thing. And I think, you know, we always look at this like it's the big bad corporation, or if anybody who owns a store is making money hand over fist. But look, you're in New York. I grew up in Boston. There were a gazillion little mom and pop stores that could never afford to do something like this.
Exactly. And in fact, this really kind of hits home with me and a conversation I had with my sister recently. I've been spreading myself very thinly, and now with the TV show starting and stuff, I just have to accept that there are some things that I cannot do. I can't do everything. So I'm looking to get an assistant for a few hours a week, and I wanted to get someone to come clean my apartment. And my sister said, "So how much are you willing to pay a cleaner?" I said, "I don't know, maybe $10 an hour." She said, "Are you kidding? They want $50 an hour." I'm like, "Are these brain surgeons? Do they perform brain surgery, while they're cleaning my apartment. I mean, realistically, I've worked as a consultant in the past, and you get quite a lot of money per hour as a consultant. But to clean, and I'm not being, I don't want to demean anybody, but how can you pay someone to clean your apartment $50 an hour if you're not earning more than $50 an hour? You've got to be earning 3 times that to be able to afford to pay somebody that.
Oh, now, Xander, you're on the radio. My God, you must be making money here. Probably hiding it under your sheets or something. You've got to be making all kinds of money because you're a capitalist, right?
Yeah, of course.
Look.
I mean, the fleet of limousines that are waiting to whisk me up to go to dinner after the show are just, highlighting
and your entourage. Yes, right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Look, it's a funny thing about it is that people think, you read my bio, I've had a few successful businesses, and I've done a lot of things in my life, which means I must have a pile of cash somewhere. But I'm in the same boat that most average Americans are in. You're living maybe week to week, month to month. Maybe you got a couple of months, put away. The investments that we all made, no matter how small they were, 5, 6, 7 years ago, are worth even less than they were 5, 6, 7 years ago. And frankly, with the economists I have on the show and the other people I talk to, we are not anywhere near out of the woods, and I have a fear that we're going to be back in the mess again. How does mom and pop, the little mom and pop shop, how do they compete? How do they stay open? How do they? And you guys in New York with de Blasio, I don't even know. I'd find some place to move. Get out of New York.
It's funny you should say that because I'm looking to buy my first home this year, and I've been looking at places that are kind of like within my price range. Now, for the cheapest thing, I could get a mansion in Florida. For the cheapest what I could afford here in New York City, I could get a mansion down in Florida. So there's something wrong really somewhere. Given that.
It's you guys who love New York. I mean, forgive me, but I know I've got friends of mine that love Boston. I am sure you guys love New York. People love Chicago, and you want to be in those cities where things are hopping and happening, and you can go out late at night. And you got to pay for the privilege, buddy. That's really what it boils down to. And it's great not to have a car, and it's great to be able to take a train to work. I remember doing that in Boston. There are some perks to living in the big city. But I don't think they're anywhere near like they were 30 years ago.
I think the novelty wears off. When I first moved back, I lived in New York City for 10 years in an apartment, and I was paying, even for a studio, I was paying like $1,500 a month. And then I moved out of the city. I moved further up, like I'm only 15, 20 minutes out, on the border of Bronx and Yonkers, and my rent is like a third cheaper. I can afford to run a car. If I need to go into the city for appearances or for dinner or to go into the studio or whatever, it's a 20-minute drive, and it's perfection. And I never thought I would break that mentality. But if I'm totally honest, although yes, I've got a mattress stuffed full of $20 bills because I'm raking it in, of course. Ha ha. It was the financial side of it that forced me in the end to do that, to live cheaper, so that I could do the things that I needed to do. And I think that every American is facing these things right now. Because I had to laugh when someone said to me last week, "Are you aware, Xander, that we're probably going to go into another recession?" I was like, "Did we actually come out of the last one?"
I was going to say, I never got to notice that we were done with the one that we're in now.
Exactly.
God.
It's scary. One of the things I wanted to ask you about, Joe, I don't know if you've seen this hoo-ha between John McCain and Chuck Todd, who'd recently been reported joking about him having heart palpitations, discovering that General Petraeus was opposed to further intervention in Iraq. Now, did you see that story?
I have not, but if you tell me about it, I'd be more than happy to talk about it.
Well, basically, John McCain is furious that this guy has had the audacity to joke about him, old Father Time McCain. And he said it's not like we need further evidence to prove the liberal bias at MSNBC and in the mainstream media at large, but Chuck Todd's hot mic comments asking if anyone checked on Senator McCain for heart palpitations over General Petraeus remarks on Iraq show just how quickly the media will try to discredit Senator McCain and anyone who questions President Obama. Now, 2 years ago, I would have totally disagreed with that because I was part of the brainwashed masses that couldn't see any wrongdoing in anything that Obama did. But don't you feel that both sides of the media have a fixed position on what is right and what is correct?
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right, especially when you go into MSNBC, CNN, and those news sources. They are working. You have to admit they're working double overtime right now to cover some of the mistakes the president has made. The thing that along these lines that really infuriated me, and I actually started. It's what my weekly piece is going to be about, which is when Mr. Obama gave his speech. I think it was yesterday or the day before, and again down the list of the Republicans do nothing. They won't let him do what he wants to do. They keep stopping his common sense legislation of what he wants to do, and I'm thinking, there's a telltale sign right there. What you and I might believe is common sense, and this is what divides the country. This is what allows us to have our opinions. We might be on two totally different sides of a coin on issues as to what, and think that's common sense dictates this. So for him to be that up on himself to say, they're stopping common sense solutions. Well, you know what, Mr. President, those are your common sense solutions. Those solutions have us back in a recession that we never came out of. Have us, losing Iraq when we should have never. Iraq for me is, have you ever had a really bad. You've had a bad infection, and the doctor gives you antibiotics, and when he gives them to you, he says to you point blank, "Hey, Xander, finish this bottle, buddy. Don't go halfway through it, because if you do, and I've done it because I'm stubborn, I feel great, so I stop taking the stuff, and that stuff comes back with a vengeance, and it takes you twice as long to get rid of it. That's what happened to us there. So now these guys making fun of McCain. Why? What's the end game? Other than make him look like a buffoon, why not deal with the issue, explain what the president has done wrong, where he blew it? Xander, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, I can't point to any Republican, and I'm a Republican conservative. I can't point to any one of those guys and go, he is without blame. He has never made a mistake.
Exactly.
Why does the other side do that with Obama? They all point to him, and he's like the new savior.
But you can't. But let me just backtrack a second. But I think it's gone on for too long to be able to blame everybody else for Obama's mistakes. I did it. I said that the financial stuff was because of what it inherited. The Republicans won't help him, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But in answer to your question about McCain, it's what I call free pizza syndrome. If you stand in the street and say, "Hey, free pizza, free pizza, free pizza," while my friends are committing a crime, you're actually concerned with getting the free pizza and not looking at what's really going on. So if they talk trash about McCain, and he's not one of my favorite people, I have to be honest, but if they do that, it shifts the direction, it shifts the focus onto him rather than them looking at what's actually going on. Because while they're fighting about whether anybody has a right to talk trash about John McCain, they're still doing the things that we're concerned about.
It's like ADD run amok, isn't it? I mean, really, it's like we've got this Benghazi thing. Oh, look, the IRS scandal. We're going. It's like they're all over the place. They never finish anything off.
They even use gay marriage to do this, and we've talked extensively on the subject. But I'm really coming to see one of the things that Dr. Gina Loudon said to me was about how the government had used this. This was last year, and I thought, no, that's not the case. And now I look at it and I see it's like, look, gay marriage, free pizza. Because while we're fighting about gay marriage, we're not actually concentrating on other issues. All the gays are going to hate me again now. I'm going to be a homophobe, even though I'm openly gay. I'm an Obamaphobe. I'm an everythingophobe, because this is what we've got to, where anybody that disagrees with any opinion is a phobe. I'm done with it, really. This is why I say in my bio.
The phobe thing bothers me so much because.
Me too.
So, I was talking about a couple of things, and one of the things that I said was what bothered me the most about the gay marriage movement was it was about you can't tell me who to love. Okay, that seemed to be a mantra, and I said this is going to come back to bite us. And I don't care who was selling the mantra. I really mean that sincerely. Okay, I said, but just saying you can't tell me who to love, that is one big broad brush to paint with. All right. So now what we have is we had the 3 women that got married in Massachusetts. I don't know if you knew about that.
3 women.
3 lesbian women. 2. What happened was 2 got married legally, and then the 2 entered into a contract with another woman, which made it legally binding. And all the agreements in that 3rd contract were marriage agreements. So technically, we have 3 women that are in a bond of marriage, if you would.
Wow.
Okay. So I got beat up by the lesbian groups. So I said, do you see how absurd this is? I wish I could take gender out of this, because what you have is you have a hard enough time with 2 people in a marriage, right? I mean, 2 people trying to get things worked out, keep a household together. That's tough to do. Now you got 3. So spouse A now is mad at spouse C and wants a divorce, but still loves spouse B, and spouse C loves spouse B and spouse A, and they've adopted 4 kids. And who gets custody? Who has to leave the house? I go, do you guys understand what you're doing here? And the lesbian groups jumped on me and said, you cannot tell us who to love. And I said, that mantra is going to come back to bite you. You can't use that mantra as a catch-all.
Right. No, exactly, and I have to agree with you. You see, the concern is for me. I've had a lot of shtick from my own community because I'm a Christian. I'm a Jew for Jesus, but that's a different story. But my ideology about marriage, as in holy matrimony, is that that's between a man and a woman. But marriage, as in a civil partnership,
civil union,
I think that should be acceptable for any 2 people. Whether they happen to be a man and a woman, 2 women or 2 men, but not holy matrimony, because that's my ideology about marriage with regards to marriage in the church. It's a state of holy union. Whilst I'm not saying that I don't think that God can bless a union between 2 people of the same sex if they're practicing Christians, the holy matrimony thing of it is a different matter to me. But when you put a 3rd person into the equation, that starts to get a little bit crazy, even for me, who's considered to be quite radical. And don't be surprised, Joe. I'll get 100 emails next week telling me that I'm homophobic. I'm a disappointment to my community. I'm supposed to be a spokesperson for the LGBTQIABCDEF community.
I know,
the
26 letters now.
Yeah,
my God.
Exactly. I'm all for inclusion, but my gosh, how am I supposed to remember all of these letters? And my argument about the acronym, this is a bit of a sidebar, but
Xander, I was going to ask you, though, if you come out and your community comes out and says, look, maybe this term was wrong, but we're willing to take on the mantra that a marriage is between 2 people. Okay, we're willing to do that. Okay, because one of the stories that I'm working on is now there's a group boiling up of pedophilia types that are saying, they're calling it intergenerational relationships. Okay, and they're saying, you can't, if a 12-year-old girl can decide when she can have an abortion, or if we're going down those roads, or we're giving them the ability to make their decision, why can't they make a decision as to who they want to love? So now they're going, and these are real stories that I'm working on. Saying,
wow.
Do you understand? This goes back to Mr. Clinton saying, I did not have sexual relations with that. Well, what is sex? What is?
Right.
We've got to start taking a stand, and I don't care what group you're with. I don't care if you're with the illegal alien group. I don't care if you're, whatever group you're with. you've got to watch the terminology you're using.
I think you do, and I find, for any, what was that phrase used? I've never you heard that before. Was it
intergenerational relationships? Look it up. You're going to pass out.
so that's the new terminology for being a pedo, basically. That's a real concern to me. You see, what I do hate though is that all of these people that are genuinely just looking to access the same rights as any other couple, they often get kind of like molded into these other groups, and clearly they are separate. They're not actually the same or even part of that analogy. But the concern comes when all these things kind of like blur into it, because I don't want to be in the same category as any of those people that you've talked about, the polygamists or those that are having sexual relations with children, because that's the furthest thing from my mind, my ideology, my doctrine, my doctrines, or anything, So it's a concern.
Well, what's funny is, and immediately they'll jump on a guy like me, right? And they'll say, "You're trying to equate us, to those guys that commit pedophilia." And I go, "No, actually, I'm not. If you read everything I've written, I've never said that. What I have said is, you've got to watch how you couch these fights, because you open the doors for so many other things to creep in." And you're right about the what is it called, polygamy. Where does polygamy, like these guys who say, well, it's very common in religious groups to have a man and 4 wives or 5 wives. Okay, that's great. So what if I want 3 guys and 7 wives, right? I mean, who are you going to tell me how many I can marry? Do you see what I'm saying here? I mean,
yeah, and isn't it Muslims that are allowed to have more than 1 wife? Obviously not in this country, but as part of their religion, they can have up to 3 wives.
I had an imam on. He said they can have up to 4 wives, but every wife has to have equal assets. You buy a Mercedes for 1, you got to buy a Mercedes for all 4, which would keep me from.
So you do
even
pay
if I was
for
a Muslim,
really.
It would keep me from doing it. I'll tell you what.
It's like the penalty for polygamy in Idaho is 2 mother-in-laws.
Oh. God, but you see what I'm saying? I think I get the passion. I get when you feel like something's the right thing. I get that. I have to constantly beat on my Christian friends, verbally, and say, guys, you go in there with the passion, thinking you're standing up for Christian kids, but the way you do it, you actually take rights away from them. So you got to stop and think about what you're doing.
It's the methodology. It's about how it's your MO. It's the way that you do it that really kind of sets you apart. From other people.
Well, Xander, it was funny because I had a group of LGBTQ moms come. I'm a school board member in Southern California, and they came in and said that I had no right being on a school board because of some of the stories that I tackle. Now, if you go look. If you have an open mind and you go look at what I've written, I've never written anything negative towards any group. I've written about situations and about issues that I don't agree with, just like this. When I did the 3 lesbians who got married, they came unglued on me, and I'm saying, you're so stuck on the fact that I'm saying 3 lesbians got married, you threw away the rest of the story. So they come in and they pound on me and they're saying, with your attitude towards gays and lesbians, you cannot help our children, so you have no business being on a school board. So then I asked them, which my other trustees get really crazy about, is give me 1 vote, give me 1 argument I've made that's taken away a right of any one of your kids, and I'll openly resign. You won't have to ask me to step down, because I can separate the 2.
Absolutely, but there is an element of social conditioning within the gay community. See, I'm sorry, I can't use the acronym anymore. It's just got too crazy for me. Because to me, if you're questioning, you're one of the above anyway. So why do you need to kind of like why do we need all of that?
I got in so much trouble for that because I truly somebody got on my case because it's LGBTQ, and I said, what's the Q for? And he said queer, and I said, I think queer is a bad term. And so I went looking, and the different sites have either queer or questioning, one of the 2.
Questioning, yeah.
All right.
But if
so
you're
I'm
questioning, you're one of the above anyway, aren't you, surely?
Yeah.
If you're saying that you're questioning, then you're obviously lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgendered anyway. So you're covered. You know, you're covered. I cannot think of one thing that's not covered by the LGBT. But there is this level of social conditioning in the LGBT community, in the gay community, that if you disagree with us, then you're anti. Do you know what I mean? So if you don't agree with any element of the lifestyle, then you're anti-gay. Which I'll be totally honest, Joe, I did used to think that way, you know, until I became enlightened and a little bit more involved. I did used to think that was the case. If you were anti-gay marriage, then you were a homophobe. But it's only when you begin to break it down and you actually want to be educated and evolve yourself that you actually say that that's not always the case. Sometimes it is. You know, I have to say, sometimes it is. It's out now, homophobia, but I think you have to take each case in isolation.
Well, you know, it's really funny because this is what I tell my Christian friends all the time. I've got, actually at our church, there's a young lesbian lady, and I don't go around asking everybody. I didn't know that was an application we gave at church, but apparently we do if you ask some others. But I've known her since she was a little girl, and she came up to me, and because there's some of the stuff that was being written in the paper, and she goes, you know I'm a lesbian. And I said, no, I didn't know, and frankly, I don't care. And I don't mean that in a cold way. I just don't care. And she said, but I've never felt anything negative from you. I've always felt love from you. And she said, I want to write about this. I said, no, don't do it. Don't get yourself involved in this. You're too young. They will tear you up for doing this.
Right. Exactly.
And she looked very sad about it. But you know, what do you say to a younger person like that? I mean, you know, your own group doesn't. You're either going to toe the line or else you're out. How does that work?
Joe, I am so much of an outsider. It's scary. I'm attacked by the gay community. The Republicans don't trust me because I used to be a Democrat. The Democrats don't trust me because I was once a Democrat and I'm now a libertarian. So I can't win. And this is why in my bio I say I have an unapologetic response to the world around me because I say what I feel and I work and move on from there because it's the only way I know how to be. And let's face it, whatever opinion you have, there's always going to be someone that finds that wrong or controversial or inappropriate or not right, but there will be a lot that will agree with you. And I think your audience finds you. I don't run out there to find my audience, and I don't mean that in a big-headed kind of way. The people that listen to my show are the ones that, you know, they don't always agree with me, they don't always agree politically, but that's great because we have this level of civil discourse that makes the world go around, as it were.
But why can't we see? That's the thing. Look, first of all, you're in it. And if you can't make a comment without getting chastised, man, I'm a dead man before I even open my mouth. So it's almost not even worth me saying anything at times. But why can't I sit down with a gay or a lesbian group and explain if they want to know? You know, because a lot of times it's just I'm just a hater, period. But why can't I have an open, honest conversation with them as to why I believe a certain thing is wrong or a certain thing isn't for me or what have you? I don't understand why that's a hateful thing. Why I'm talking about open, honest conversation and not hateful conversation. Why does that scare people?
Because I think you hit the nail on the head. They get to the very first part of it, and then they don't want to go any further. But I think that we tend to a lot of people tend to do that politically too. You know, it's like when Democrats turn around and say you even have the audacity to question one of Obama's decisions. It can't be that his decision is faulty. It might be because you're racist, or you're an Obamaphobe, or you hate America, or you want this. Everyone can always make up, but for me, don't make up for me why I have made a certain statement. I'll tell you why I've made the statement, and 9 times out of 10, it's because that's how I feel, not because I'm anti-woman or anti-this or anti-Obama or homophobic or when I was on your show before and I said that what's his name, Andrew Tamarisi, the guy who's in a Mexican jail, Sergeant Andrew Tamarisi, I said he would have got a call from the president if it had been a black gay sports star. And I got a lot of stick about that, but it's true. If he'd have been black and gay and a sports star or an actor, he would have got a call from the president. And I'm not going to stop saying the things that I feel, even if people feel that they're controversial, because this is my platform, this is my show, and this is what I do. You know?
I'm with you, because it's. I scream that if you truly want equality, then fight for that equality. You know, I've got a couple, as I know you do, I've got a couple of those people that you know, I call them the trollers, right? They listen to me on the chat room, they write notes, they've taken their notes and all this other stuff, and I always poke them in the eye and say, look, if you're honest about equality, then your cause should not be one thing. You should be screaming for the rights of the Christian guys,
everybody,
of the Marine that's in jail, you know, all of them across the board. Then I give you credibility. Then I'll fight alongside you. But when you squirrel in a corner and your cause is the only cause and everybody else is wrong, then you're not for equality. You are for your own little party there or whatever. Yeah, it just
Sorry
makes
to cut
me
you
nuts.
short, Joe, but we're just about to go over time.
Sorry.
But I want you to be able to tell people where. No, don't apologize. I hope you'll come back and join us again. But tell people where they can find you on social media and when your show airs.
If you just hop onto therealside.com, you can find out stations, times, and all that. And as I was listening to the show earlier, as you said, the easiest way is on Twitter @TheRealSide, and we're up on Facebook, but you can reach all of that from the website. And Xander, you know, you do a really good job at what you do and getting the message out and allowing guys like me to have open, honest conversations with you. So I will come on anytime and bring you on my show as well.
Thank you so much. It will be great to have you on again, and I'd love to come on your show again too. It's been great having you. Thank you so much. You have a fabulous week, Joe Messina. Not the what's your phraseology? I always forget it. Not the left side, not the right side.
Not the wrong side, but the real side of the issues.
There we go. Check out his show every day, 5 p.m., Monday to Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Pacific Time. Is that right?
Yeah, 2 p.m. Loon Time, yes.
Absolutely. All right, Joe, thanks so much, and we'll look forward to speaking to you again very soon.
All right.
Take
Bye-bye,
care.
Xander.
Bye.
Yeah.
That was Joe Messina, host of The Real Side. Make sure you check him out. Have a fabulous week. We've gone so over time. Thanks for listening, and I love you all. Bye-bye.